It always starts beautifully. The way their voice warms the silence. The way their presence makes the world shrink until it's just the two of you. In those moments, nothing feels forced. You don't analyze, you don't question. You just want. But then, something shifts. The same voice that once soothed you starts to irritate you. The little habits you used to find cute now scratch at your patience. Their touch doesn't spark the same electricity. You don't even know when it began, but the feeling that once burned bright has cooled into something quieter, sometimes even resentment. And here's the cruel part. You start to wonder what's wrong with you, or worse, what's wrong with them. You look for explanations, you replay old moments, you cling to the memory of how it used to feel. But no matter how hard you try, it doesn't fit anymore. It's like trying to hold smoke. The tighter you grip, the faster it slips away. Maybe it was never about something going wrong. Maybe it was just desire doing what it always does. Burning fast, fading fast. And maybe the reason it hurts so much is because we believed it was more than that. Because we wanted it to be more than that. To understand why desire can turn so quickly into contempt, we need to step outside the romantic stories we've been told and step into the cold, unsettling clarity of Arthur Schopenhauer. Schopenhauer believed that human beings aren't primarily driven by reason or ideals. We're driven by what he called the will to life. This force isn't personal. It doesn't care about our dreams, our identities, or our happily ever afters. It's older than love songs, deeper than logic. It's the raw, blind push of life itself, reaching through us, trying to perpetuate itself. When you desire someone, Schopenhauer would argue, it's not really you who desires, it's life itself, using you as its instrument. The rush, the passion, the obsessive pull toward the other person, it all serves a biological purpose, to keep the species moving forward, to ensure survival. But here's where it gets dark. The moment that purpose is fulfilled, or the moment the will senses that it's no longer needed, the spell starts to break. The person who once seemed perfect now irritates you, not because they changed, but because the unconscious biological pull has faded, and with that, the illusion collapses. Schopenhauer saw romantic love as a kind of cosmic trick, not evil, but indifferent. A beautiful lie that nature tells to get what it wants, and once it gets it, the truth seeps through the cracks. This is why so many relationships burn bright and die fast. Why people who once couldn't stop touching each other start fighting over small, stupid things. Why something that felt like destiny turns into distance. It's not that we're broken. It's that our narrative, our belief in forever passion, was built on something nature never promised. For Schopenhauer, love isn't a moral story. It's a biological transaction wrapped in poetry. And when the poetry fades, what's left isn't always romantic, it's raw. That's why understanding this isn't just philosophy, it's survival. It's learning to stop mistaking the will for the self, to stop personalizing what was never personal, and to see that the fading of desire isn't always betrayal. Sometimes it's just nature clocking out. Desire feels personal. It feels like a choice, like you looked across the room and something in you said, that one. But Schopenhauer would argue that what you call choice is the echo of something much deeper, much older, the will to life acting through you. In his view, you are not the master of your longing. You're its messenger.
The will wants continuation, not fulfillment, not peace, not even happiness, just persistence. It uses attraction as its bait, intensity as its fuel, and illusion as its disguise. When you look into someone's eyes and feel that magnetic pull, what you're really feeling is life itself saying, go on, merge, multiply, survive. That's why desire feels so consuming, because it is consumption. It takes over the mind, hijacks the soul, and blinds you to flaws, not out of romance, but out of necessity. Nature doesn't want you analyzing compatibility, it wants you acting. Passion, then, is not a moral experience, but a biological one. Yet, this is precisely where the tragedy begins. The same force that creates the illusion of perfect union also sows the seed of eventual disillusionment. Because once the will's mission is accomplished, once the initial purpose of desire has been served, the mask slips. What you thought was love begins to dissolve, and in its place comes irritation, distance, sometimes even contempt. You begin to notice the habits you once romanticized. The quirks become flaws. The things that once made her magnetic now make her unbearable. It's not cruelty, it's chemical clarity. The will retreats, leaving you with the aftermath. Two individuals staring at each other, stripped of illusion, forced to confront the fact that they were never really seeing each other to begin with. Schopenhauer believed this is why love stories so often end in disappointment, because what begins as a projection of life's will must inevitably reveal its emptiness once the projection fades. The person becomes ordinary again, and because the will can't tolerate stagnation, it turns restless, seeking a new vessel to inhabit, a new chase to animate. So when passion turns to contempt, it isn't proof that something went wrong. It's proof that nature worked exactly as designed. Desire is a temporary delusion that serves a permanent biological function. Once the spell breaks, we confuse the absence of that spell with the loss of love, when in truth, love was never purely emotional. It was instinct, wearing a mask of meaning. This doesn't mean love is fake. It means love, as we experience it, is a paradox, both profound and primitive. It's spirit trapped in flesh, longing disguised as purpose. And when the longing dies, we're left face to face with a silence we don't know how to hold. To understand this is not to lose faith in love. It's to stop worshiping illusion. To see desire not as an enemy, but as a messenger of something we must learn to transcend. Because if you can witness desire's rise and fall without turning it into identity, you escape its cycle. You stop needing passion to prove your worth. You stop confusing fading attraction with personal failure. You start seeing love not as something you chase, but as something you observe, knowing it moves through you, but does not define you. That's the quiet liberation hidden in Schopenhauer's cynicism. Once you stop being ruled by the will, desire may still burn, but it no longer owns you.
You've probably felt it. That strange moment when something shifts between you and someone you once couldn't stop thinking about. In the beginning, everything felt alive. Her voice, her eyes, even the way she moved across her room, it lit something inside you. Every text, every glance, every brush of skin felt like confirmation that this was real. You replayed moments in your head. You analyzed her tone. You overthought her silences. And underneath it all, there was this constant burning desire, not just for her body, but for the story you were telling yourself about her. She wasn't just a person.
She was possibility. She was the thing that made ordinary life feel cinematic. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, something started to change. The magic bled out of the edges. Those same habits that once made her feel unique began to grate on you. Her laugh started to sound different. Her messages felt more like obligations than gifts. The space between replies got heavier. It wasn't that she did something wrong, it's that the spell you were under began to loosen its grip. And what's left, after the high fades, is something raw, something human. You've been here before. That heavy exhale after realizing the spark you thought was infinite was just a flare. The discomfort of watching someone you once idolized become someone ordinary. The guilt of asking yourself silently, why don't I feel it anymore? And it cuts deeper because at one point, it felt undeniable. The desire was so strong you thought it meant something eternal. You built expectations on top of that feeling. You mistook intensity for depth. Maybe you tried to fix it. Maybe you told yourself it was just a phase. Maybe you forced conversations, planned dates, tried to recreate that early heat. But no matter what you did, it never felt quite the same. You began noticing flaws you had once glossed over. You stopped looking at her with awe, you started looking through her, searching for the girl you thought she was. And underneath that disillusionment was a quiet fear. Fear that maybe you were the problem. That maybe your inability to hold that desire forever meant you were broken, ungrateful, unloving. But what if it wasn't brokenness? What if it was simply nature revealing itself? What if the fading of desire isn't proof of failure, but proof of how deeply human you are? How your biology plays its part and your emotions follow its lead? You're not alone in this. That slow shift from fire to friction is something almost everyone experiences, but few speak about honestly. It's the moment where idealization collapses and reality finally steps in. And for many, it's the moment where they begin to question everything, not realizing that this is the moment Schopenhauer warned about. The will has done its job. The illusion fades, and what remains isn't proof of loss, but an invitation to finally see what was there all along.
Here's the uncomfortable truth. What we call falling out of love often isn't personal. It's biological disillusionment. In the beginning, your mind isn't seeing clearly. It's filtering reality through a chemical fog. The rush of dopamine, oxytocin, and novelty creates a narrative. This person is the answer. You don't just see them, you project onto them. You imagine depth where there's only surface. You build a future out of glances. But that chemical storm was never meant to last. Nature designed it to pull you close, not to keep you suspended in perpetual fascination. And when that spell begins to dissolve, what's left behind isn't always a gentle landing. Sometimes it's contempt. This is what Arthur Schopenhauer understood so well. To him, human desire wasn't about two souls finding each other. It was the blind will to life, an instinct older than reason, using individuals as instruments for its own continuation. You think you're choosing love, but at a biological level, something much more primal is choosing for you. And once that will achieves its goal, or senses it cannot, it withdraws its magic. The romantic ideal begins to collapse. The beauty that once felt otherworldly now looks painfully ordinary, and the same intensity that once pulled you in can flip into irritation. Why? Because the illusion of perfection has cracked. You start noticing every little thing. The quirks you adored now feel exaggerated. The traits you ignored now sit at the center of your perception. The voice that once gave you butterflies now feels like noise. The problem isn't that she's changed.
It's that your lens has. And that's the paradox. Your love story wasn't built entirely on truth. It was built partly on a mirage, one your biology painted for you. So when that mirage evaporates, what's left feels disappointing. But in reality, this isn't a tragedy. It's clarity. You're finally seeing her not as a fantasy, but as the person. And seeing clearly is uncomfortable when you've grown attached to the dream. Many run from this discomfort. They chase new highs, new faces, hoping to feel that spark again. But others, they stay. They face the mirror. They confront their own projections and illusions. Here lies the deeper truth. The contempt you feel isn't always about her. It's about the death of the illusion. The irritation isn't a sign that love was fake. It's a sign that reality has stepped into the room and the fantasy no longer fits. Desire creates the myth. Disillusionment reveals the human. And in that gap, between fantasy and fact, is where real love, if it exists at all, must choose to either grow or fade.
The lesson here isn't to fear desire. It's to understand its nature. Desire isn't wrong, it's energy, ancient, irrational, and deeply human. But the danger begins when you confuse it for meaning. When you build your worth around being desired, you become enslaved to the approval of others. You start performing rather than existing, adjusting your tone, your confidence, even your silence, hoping to maintain attraction. You stop being real, you start being strategic, and slowly you erode your own authenticity in exchange for temporary validation. The truth is, attraction isn't something you control, it's something you inspire. And the most magnetic people are those who aren't trying to be. They're centered. They're not chasing a response. Their value doesn't collapse when the attention fades. So the next time you feel someone's desire shifting, don't panic. Don't scramble to regain their interest. Pause. Let it reveal what it needs to reveal. Maybe you've been idealized and the illusion is dying. Maybe you were idealizing them. Either way, clarity is a gift, not a punishment. Your task isn't to make them keep wanting you. It's to stay rooted when the illusion fades. That's real power. Because the moment you stop being addicted to being chosen, you start choosing yourself. You stop living reactively, tied to whether someone finds you fascinating or not. Start building a life that isn't dependent on desire for fuel. Build purpose, curiosity, and mystery from within. Read, create, move your body, grow your mind. When you do that, your energy shifts from seeking to radiating, from needing validation to embodying it. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to be desirable, you become magnetic again. Not because you're performing, but because you're real. And people can feel that. They can sense when someone is grounded in themselves, not in another's gaze. Don't chase the flame, become the fire.
Imagine living from a place where your worth doesn't tremble when someone pulls away, where silence doesn't feel like rejection, just space, where desire isn't something you cling to, but something you allow to move through you without losing your center. That's the shift. You move from being reactive to being rooted, from craving validation to embodying quiet strength. The old version of you built his identity around being wanted, chasing proof that he mattered. The new version doesn't chase, he chooses. He knows that attraction may come and go, but self-respect is non-negotiable. When you internalize this truth, relationships stop being tests of your value. They become mirrors of your awareness. You stop asking, "Why doesn't she want me anymore?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me about attachment, illusion, and ego?" You become a student of human nature instead of a victim of it. That's what Schopenhauer was pointing toward all along, that desire enslaves those who mistake it for freedom. But once you see through it, you reclaim power over yourself. You're no longer swayed by the highs of being wanted or the lows of being ignored. You begin to operate from stillness, from inner command. This shift changes how you move, speak, and even how you look at people. You stop seeking intensity and start seeking truth. You stop trying to possess others and start mastering yourself. And in doing so, you become something rare in a world of emotional dependency, self-contained. Others will feel it. They'll sense the quiet confidence in your energy, that unspoken, "I'm whole with or without you." And paradoxically, that's what draws people in. Not your looks, not your words, but your emotional independence. When you no longer need desire to validate your existence, you become the kind of person who transcends it. You stop burning for attention and start radiating presence. That's not the end of desire. It's the evolution of it. You no longer chase the illusion of being enough. You become the embodiment of it.
If this message stirred something in you, sit with it for a moment. Don't rush to escape the discomfort. That ache you feel right now isn't a wound, it's awareness being born. Most people run from it. They distract themselves, find someone new, or bury the lesson under noise. But not you. You're here because you're done repeating the same cycle of chasing, losing, and confusing intensity for meaning. So here's your next step. Stay. Stay with what this video revealed. Watch it again tomorrow, when your mind is quieter. Let it sink deeper. Because understanding desire isn't an instant revelation. It's a process of unlearning what you thought love was supposed to be. And if you're ready to keep walking that path where philosophy meets human truth, then subscribe. Not out of habit, but intention. Every video on this channel is a mirror, a challenge, and sometimes a confrontation with what we'd rather not see. You don't need to chase clarity. You're already stepping into it, one truth at a time. Drop a "got this" comment if you felt this shift, and let others know they're not alone in the silence between passion and peace. This is Psyche Unmasked, where the mind reveals the heart.